Welcome to the next episode of the CAPB Podcast. We are honoured to have Steve, the founder of Black Ops Rum, and a Parachute Regiment veteran. Welcome, Steve.
Cheers. Thanks for having me, guys. And thanks for popping my cherry on the podcast game.
You're not the first, mate. You're not the first. We seem to be we have a bit of a thing for popping people's cherries on here. And as I say to all the rest, start low, mate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Low expectations. The rest is going to be brilliant.
No, to be honest, like I said a bit earlier before you start recording, I like the fact that you focus mainly on the business side. Don't get me wrong, there's loads to be said about the veteran side and probably stuff that we can bounce ideas off, and the army stuff that we can use. But the fact that you concentrate mainly on the business is why I wanted to go on you guys first, because it's a shit ditch, isn't it, otherwise?
Don't get me wrong, mate, there's a fair set of shit dits. And on that, right, it is, I think, and Paul and I are very passionate about it, like, veterans are incredible in the business space. They have a certain drive, a will, they bring transferable skills. And what the veteran community has gone on to achieve in business, including what you're doing with Black Ops Rum and associated, businesses and ventures you've got going, is fascinating, mate, and we can't wait to hear all about it.
Yeah, cool. And it's a relatively... I'd say it's a close-knit community, but to be honest, when I first started, it wasn't. It was quite catty, to be honest. It's like not another veteran coffee brand. It's like, how many coffee brands can a veteran make? But to be honest, just guys getting out and trying something a bit different as a side hustle. It's only commendable. I mean, your last guest you had on before, or that Jacob Lockwood, I reached out to him pretty early on. Only because the guy's basically running naked with his dick out, and he's going hell for leather. He's not just obviously coming up with a concept of the fact that it's all just made in the UK. It's also the fact he's showing you where they're made. He's hiding nothing. He's totally wide open.
He's a fascinating.
Which you got to respect it. Don't get me wrong. I'm probably not going to wear something that's got one of those coconut hat wearing, non-ferocious type logos. Just with my old Para-Reg background. A bit the same with the old Gibraltar trade. I think he was totally right. Para-Reg folks don't want to wear a butter knife. It's just a fact.
I love it, mate. I love the banter. I love what we've got. But we'll get into it. For a start, mate, you served for 7 years with one para. If you were to encapsulate that in a highlight reel, what does that look like, Steve?
Oh, well, yeah. So I joined in 2003. So it's just in the shadow of 9/11. But in all honesty, it weren't out of some mad case of patriotism. It was actually because of one show, Band of Brothers, obviously, which came out in 2002. I was in college at the time. And I had a couple of friends that were in, what were they in? One of them was in the tanks and the other one, I think, was in the artillery at the time. And they were coming home on the weekends and they had money. And I was obviously skint being a student. And I specialised in art and graphics, which obviously came to benefit me once I left. But so I asked them what was the best army to join, what was the best army unit to join, and can I join the SAS straight away? As a typical idiot. And they said, no, the Parachute Regiment's the hardest one to join. So I thought, well, especially after watching that show, I thought I'll give it a go. So I joined naively in January 2003. And then obviously in March 2003, they went in and invaded Iraq, or liberated Iraq, should we say. So throughout training, it was all a case of, well, get ready because you're going to be going straight to Iraq, guys. So we're going to train you guys up to be war fighting Joes. And by the looks of it, like to train you up to be war fighting Joes is basically just a form of physical and mental torture, which is what we went through, which was brilliant, and it plays more a part in the Black Ops story a bit later on. So joined 2003. Get to the battalion, rating to go, done my jumps, getting ready to go to war. And obviously the war finished relatively early and came back. So we were the blokes who didn't go to Iraq. So for the next 2 years, we spent being the crow bags in battalion, basically doing all the fatigues and every other kind of menial kind of job that they could find, which was great actually, because it formed a great bond between all the guys that didn't go to Iraq. However, all the guys that did were a lot more allied than us. But then we also learned our place of stuff like you couldn't get your reg stat until you'd actually done something. And, it's a very much a hierarchical system, especially Para-Reg. It literally is time served and what you've done. I then went to, lucky enough, the best thing I had to look forward to, apart from all those mad exercise, Eagles ball bag and all the other ones, and a TESx in the snow, I was then 2005, we'd done a Northern Ireland tour. So I was thinking, thank God at last we actually get to finally do something. At that point, I've worked my way up to the level of not being the platoon mong. And that was good enough for me, mate. I was an average Joe soldier. And then while I was on Northern Ireland, towards the back end of it, my platoon, I was mainly B Company, but it was mainly my platoon, which is 4 Platoon B Company. Shout out to them, because they, that was a pretty alley platoon and company. We were the first ones to go off on the very first SFSG task over in Baghdad, which was up Crichton. So went off and done that. I ain't gonna lie, it was pretty cool. It was different. That's the one where we're wearing the American uniforms and getting to. But basically, it sounds like it was all cool. It weren't. It was just Hereford hand-me-downs. To be honest, we were basically like the ugly, horrible stepchild of the 2-2 guys that was given their black, their old gear that they didn't want to wear. But for us, it was mega, because we got to do something a little bit different, and being the first was a big thing for me. I really enjoyed it. Went to Oman on an exercise for looking at pre-deploying to Afghan on some of the first ones, but it weren't a Herrick at that point. We were pretty much fully fledged SFSG then, so we were doing different things. But like I said, I've always had the intent. I've always wanted to kind of do the new thing, the kind of cool thing. It sounds mad, but at the time, we just had our very first. C Company were basically looking for guys to go across and become part of the counter-terrorism platoon. Okay. Eventually now changed to a rotation, but at the time, I think it's like a 6-month rotation the guys do now. But I haven't been down there for a while, so I couldn't be 100% accurate with it. But at the time, it was just, this is going to be a CT company. So I moved from B Company to C Company to get my favourite weapon system, my MP5, and got to do the counter-terrorism stuff, which in all honesty was pretty cool and pretty alley, and I got to do that for about 18 months. And then I went on an army recruiting team, which was actually quite a pivotal moment in my life, not just in my army career, but in my personal life. So I went to an army recruiting team down in Chepstow, and I was the only para-reg guy on there. So straight away, I a bit like a dog. I went around everywhere and pissed in the corners everywhere. So I probably, at first, I reckon all the blokes thought, who is this absolute dickhead? And I'm 100% sure that's probably what they thought of me, because I was brainwashed to the point of being, all of you guys are the non-ferocious HAATSs, right? And I thought, you guys can't compare with me. I'm going to beat you on every run. I'm going to get above that 12-man wall on my own. I don't need your help. I can do everything on my own. And it was great, because it was actually quite humbling, because actually those blokes that I met on that recruiting team are some of my best friends I keep to this day now. I still take the mick out of them and call them non-ferocious types, but they are genuinely some of the best mates I could ever have. And that's another thing which it kind of broke a little bit of that brainwashing of this para-reg. Otherwise, mate, I probably would have been just out and out reg nutcase, a proper pub paratrooper, just constantly calling everyone the obvious.
Mate, so you served for 7 years.
Yeah, 7 years, mate.
Let's talk about your business, right? So first of all, focusing on Black Ops Rum, what is it? Yeah. Talk to me. What is the business?
Cool. All right. So when I got out in 2010, I done like what most para-reg blokes did. I actually joined 5 Para, which is the private security industry. So that's what I was doing, and that's what I've been doing. That's what I still do. Without going into too much detail, and it's actually a really good place for guys like me to get into, because we've got the network. And like I say, I genuinely fell into that network all because I was wearing a para-reg t-shirt at a med centre. So I owe a lot to I basically owe my life to this cap badge, which is mad, because like I say, when I joined, I didn't particularly join because I was looking for something. But what it's given me is like this whole other family, mate. Like even coming on this podcast, and what the big thing is, I don't want to let that unit down. That unit means more to me. It's the only tattoo I've got. For all I love my kids and I love my wife and everything, I haven't got them tattooed on my body. I've got that bloody thing tattooed on my arm. because it shaped my life massively. So when I got out and got into doing the private security kind of thing, everything was going great. And then lockdown happened. And at the time, I've been thinking about it for a while while I was doing bits and bobs about potentially bringing out my own brand of rum. But at the time, I remember the first lockdown. It was amazing. The weather was great, and there was barbecues every day, and everyone was just posting online all their home bars. And I was like, I've got to do it because I've had this idea for a while. I like to say about weird connections. So there was a guy when I went to college. So I'm from Liverpool originally, but I moved down to North Devon when I was a kid. And when I went to North Devon College before I joined the army, I met a guy down there called Matt. And Matt's mum and dad had like a really small bespoke distillery that was making like moonshine for Christmas markets. And I called him up during lockdown, like, hey mate, how's it going? Are you still down there? And he's like, he moved. But I was like, your mum and dad still got that little mad distillery, mate. Can you guys make me a flavoured rum? And he's like, yeah, of course. What flavour do you want? And originally, the true story was I wanted the salted caramel flavoured rum, and I was going to call it Unicorn Jizz. And I couldn't because the trademark already exists. It's actually a cocktail over in America. So I was like, oh, forget that. Anyway, send us some of your samples, and I come up with the idea. So originally I had 4 flavours. I come up with one for the 5 para, so to speak, which was the Buckshee blend, which is the salted caramel rum. I also asked them to make me a toffee apple rum, which was a Pegasus blend. Like I said, some of my friends that I had from the army recruiting team who were in the rifles. I asked them to make me a chosen blend, which was a banoffee flavoured rum. And I think I also had a marine mate, an obvious one, and I made a Hoofen blend, which is because of how many coffee companies they made. I thought, we'll make it like a mocha one, a chocolate and a coffee flavoured rum. And I thought, just for the Navy bods, we'll make a Navy one as well, but we'll make it sweet rather than a horrible pussers or whatever they want to call it rum. Now, as you know, most rums, the big thing I wanted with them as when I was speaking to him is like, when you make this rum, most rums are disgusting. You have to drink it with a mixer because it's just not that great. It doesn't taste well. That's why it's constantly used as a base for cocktails and anything else. Some of them you can, but I'll happily challenge them to some of ours. So anyway, when he made them, he sent me some samples across, and then basically blind taste tested it with all different ones, and it never lost. It never lost. About the 20 houses we went to, the only time it ever lost was to another one of our flavours. But our ones were coming top of every one of these blind taste tests, and I was like, we're fucking on to something here. I found the glasses in Germany, or the bottles, should I say. And like I said, before I joined the army, I was into graphics and art, so all the labels I designed myself.
So was the plan always to produce a range of rum, or was it to produce a rum and then let's react to feedback, and now people are asking me, so I'm gonna make more?
Yeah.
What's the journey to how many blends have you got now?
Close enough, mate. Originally, my plan was to possibly just do one. But once he sent me the samples, and I was like, Jesus, what? They're all really good. And I thought, I'll do one for different units. And like I say, originally it was just for the first lockdown. I thought, right, I'll make the Para Reg one. The bottles are going to look cool. People are like that on the shelf. It's got to stand out. It's called my triple canopy, which is what I do for all businesses. So canopy number 1, the bottle's got to stand out. It's got to look cool, right? Number 2, make sure the label's different. Make it reference something. Make sure the branding's kind of on point, but it doesn't have to be specific. But like, I'll explain a bit more what I mean with that. Once again, this is mainly down to my graphics background of what I was trying to achieve. I also like the juxtaposition of what side are you going to use. Like I say, on show, what one do you want? With the idea is you want to show both, so you're going to buy 2 bottles. So straight away, you're going to buy 2. So straight away, there's my business end. And then, like I say, my third one at the time was the fact that every bottle was going to be serial number, so we were going to give back to different military charities and small, ideally grassroots charities, because the military charity sector was a whole other podcast. But the small ones genuinely do so much, but get almost nothing. Whereas some of the big ones are sitting on millions and not really doing much with it. That could be honestly, that could be a whole different podcast we could go down. But that was the idea originally with the bottling. And then, in all honesty, at that time, when I come up with that kind of idea, they tasted that nice. But even if they tasted like cat piss, people would buy it and stick it on their home bar that they just spent all summer building. But the flip reverse happened. It was amazing. And the first issue I had, so I put it originally, I didn't even have a website. I put it on a site called a Facebook group, which was Parachute Regiment Past and Present, set up by a guy called Si, which I thought, like I say, I only had 50 bottles made, and I sold out within 2 minutes. And I thought, oh, Jesus. But once again, this is that mad brotherhood thing and the pride of it, the badges on it, they were just going to go for it. And like I said, we haven't even got the badge on it. We've just got a skull with a beret and a little bit of a badge. And it just flew out, mate. And at that point, it was like, shit, we're going to need a bigger boat. And then I thought, well, maybe it's just Para-Reg. And then all of a sudden, the others started buying it. Some of the feedback we got was brilliant, but the best feedback we got, because at the time, after being already cancelled, I couldn't really post any of it. But some of the ones I got from the rifles, mate, were hilarious. Like some of the blokes there, that like I say, I think most of us are facetious by nature, and what I mean by that is we're the guys who make a really inappropriate joke at a funeral. And some of these reviews, mate, honestly, I could do a stand-up routine just on some of the reviews, like a bloke saying, I would literally drink this if you poured this down my body, and I licked it off the end of my balls. And I was like, that's a brilliant review.
Like a Google review. Stick out
yeah.
Google.
That's it. 5 stars, mate. You know what I mean? So it started off with that, mate, and then all of a sudden I had other units message me and say, oh, can you do us one? Can you do us one? And it was a case of, in the end we got to 50, and I thought, like, 15's pretty much now. We're starting to rip the arse out of it. But don't get me wrong, at the same time, it's 15 different charities that we're also helping. And it's different units or specific things. So like we've got like a Zero Alpha blend, which is dedicated to my wife, because to be honest, I'm just a nutty bastard who comes up with the ideas and stupid enough to throw his own money at the thing. My wife has to sit there and kind of pull me back and also support me at the same time, because I'm a lunatic with an idea. So like I say, I'm one of those horrendous guys who gets an idea and goes for it, because it's part of that operator's mindset. So the company that actually owns Black Ops is Ops. Go on.
Mate, it's two things, mate, I think that are really important. Is that, first of all, so many of the veteran-owned brands that we've had, so many, have this sense of service to give back to charity. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Combat Clipper on, mate, gives to Combat Stress. Hasn't had to use Combat Stress, but he thinks, you know what, it's an important charity, it's doing great things, I'm going to raise money for charity. It is incredible the amount of veteran-owned brands whose default is not, I just need to drive profit and get as much as I can. It's straight away, it's almost like de facto, well, I'm going to give a percentage to charity because it's important. And that level of like integrity, selfless commitment, and act of service is class, mate. I think that's immense.
I think that is what's relatively unique with basically our little sector. And like I say, the problem is some people from the outside look at it and go, oh yeah, it's just a ploy to try and look. It's a little bit of virtue signal, but it's not. The reality is, it's like we could keep that money and just donate it to the British Legion or whatever, but we don't want it. We want to give it to these small little charities that have got little outreach programs and doing stuff. So like, I said I made a Hoofen blend. The Hoofen blend, all the design aspect and everything, because obviously I'm Para-Reg, I'm not a Marine, so I bounced all of this off a guy called Ed Jennings. I'll name him because he was a mega bloke and he was a really good friend who I met when I was doing CP. But unfortunately, a couple of years ago, he killed himself, which I was furious about. But we've done everything we could to try and help him. So there's a serious problem we've got, unfortunately, in our community, and it's not some kind of mad stigma. And unfortunately, I'm not the best person for it, because in my head it doesn't make sense. I'm lucky enough that I know it exists, but I'm lucky enough that it doesn't affect me. But I'm not totally intolerant to the fact that I know it exists. So I'm not the best person to help solve these problems. Hence why we give to different charities. Scotty's Little Soldiers, which is another amazing idea. We give it to them. They're brilliant. Support our paras. Give it to them. They're the experts, not me. There's all sorts of different like Pilgrims Bandits, whatever ones. Stafford, for example, I know we said not big ones. They're probably the biggest one we give to, but once again, they're really good. They're amazing. There's no
Steve,
point in us going, oh, we're going to make our own foundation and take people on hill walks because we don't know what we're doing. These guys do.
yeah, Steve, I think with your, it's a really poignant point, because, like you said, it's like Paul and I, we served in total between us like over 35 years, and it's like with all the tours and all the rest of it, we've not been hit too hard with any mental health yet. But I
Yeah.
always say yet, because you never know you never know
No.
if you're going to rely on these charities. It's like we had Carl Heine on, mate, and Carl Heine was seriously injured in Iraq, and he was like severely burnt. He's
Mate,
over,
I know. I was on the job. I was on the job getting ready to go down from Baghdad as part of the team to go and get the other guys that were there.
and it's crazy because like Carl is an ambassador for a charity called the Scar Free Foundation, and when we were talking about,
Mate, I watched the bit on him. Yeah, it's mental. It's amazing. You know what I
and
mean?
it's
It's
a
amazing.
charity, but it's a charity that you never knew existed or never knew you would need it. But he's this ambassador for this incredible charity. Do you know what I mean? I think it's incredible, mate, and I think it's absolutely selfless. I've got a question for you.
Go for it, man.
I've got a question for you, mate. Do you still have the rum made in your mate's parents' distillery?
Yes.
I think
Yes,
that
mate.
is such a cool story. I think it's ace,
Yeah.
mate.
Shout out to Ron and Margaret and Matt's the son who's down there, the go between who does all. They're the boys in the kitchen, so to speak. And like I say, what they do and how they make it is amazing. All they do with me is send it to me, and I go, can you make it a bit sweeter? Can you make it a bit stronger? And then I come up with the brand and design aspect, which is the bit I enjoy. And then we obviously moved on a little bit with some of the merch. And same again with our glasses and everything else. It's just trying to be a little bit more. Like I said, unfortunately, I'm almost like a juxtaposition. It's that battle of rum's in every man drink. There was nothing stopping me from going off and making a whiskey, apart from the fact it takes 4 years minimum. But what I love about rum is obviously you guys probably got served gunfire. It's like an army tradition, but obviously rum's link to the military is massive. But for me, what I love about rum is it's like I say, I'm from Liverpool and I grew up on the North Devon coast. It's kind of like the everyman drink, but I just wanted to elevate it. Like I say, I wanted to make a rum that you could drink straight. That was the mission. The other good thing, like we said about military personnel going into civilian kind of things, I came at this with like mission focused, which made it much more easier for me to build because I had clear, defined goals. Don't get me wrong, I'm also para-reg, so you need a little bit of ABI. You need to be able to, improvise, adapt, and overcome. Like that's a major part of all business, but those three things alone of being able to help me progress and push through on all my businesses, not just this. Like I say, I've got a security business, which once again is a whole other story. I'm part of the owners, once again, with another reg guy and a royal engineer, another CPO guy, my wife. We've got a secret bar in Liverpool called Taylor's Liverpool, which is amazing. If you get a chance, check that out on Instagram. But if not, go there because
Well, mate, I tell you what. I tell you what, right? So I'm organising in my day job. I'm organising a conference with a lad called Jack, who's a Navy veteran, and he's not a veteran. He's just a fucking great bloke. But we're organising a conference in Liverpool, mate, in October, and it's in the Titanic Hotel on the dock. Yeah. So, but yeah. So we'll definitely hook you up about getting to the secret bar. I've just opened this. This is the one that you sent us, right? This is obviously the best blend you could ever possibly do because we're the most decorated corps in the British Army. Mate, that tastes. I'm not a rum guy usually. That is absolutely delicious, mate.
Mate, and genuinely, I took a gen. The hardest part we had at first, we sold loads of these, like I said, but no one would drink them. They were like, "Oh, it looks too good. We're just going to keep it on the shelf." I was like, "No, please, like genuinely drink it because wait till you taste it. That the secrets in the truth juice that's inside.
It's delicious.
I wanna ask about. Obviously, we go into like lessons from your business, right? Like, what have you learned? But I want to the alcohol so the alcohol trade, as it were, is so highly competitive. It only seems like you walk down into a supermarket and there's another bottle or another
No.
thing or another wine getting or another vodka, whatever, getting pushed out. How do you have you felt when you're pushing out your brand around the rum? Have you felt that sort of competitiveness? Or what lessons have you learned and you brought over from your sort of military lifestyle? And you've already touched on it a little bit about the values, but what have you found most sort of difficult or easy?
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. Like I say, the alcohol feels saturated, but I like to think of it. Captain Morgan's, for example, typically like most other officers, it's got lost along the way. Right? So it's just batch produced. You can't differentiate. You can't drink it. It's massive. It gets made in massive vats. It's a global brand. You don't really see the people behind it. There's no messaging with it, and let's be honest, it doesn't taste that great. That's why you've got to mix it with something. Like I said, what I loved about rum was, if I was to ask you to name your favourite rums, there's probably about 5 or 6 that you can probably name off the top of your head. So therefore, I see there's a little bit of a gap there for us to kind of push in there and kind of make this a bigger brand than it is. However, once again, down to that madness and the contrast and the juxtaposition, I haven't pitched this or marketed this to anyone. We've sold over 3,000 bottles on our tiny little website. You know, we haven't tried to push this. When you say about, what lessons of business can you have, right? My lessons for business is pretty simple. You need one customer. You only need the one. That customer will get you more customers if your service is good and your product's great. The problem that most businesses have is they focus almost wholeheartedly on the product. Don't get me wrong, your product needs to be decent, but your customer's more important. You could have the best product in the world, but if you don't know who your customer is, they're never going to know. Focus on your customer. Why is so out of all my businesses, why did Black Ops fly off the shelf? And it's the only one that I haven't had to do anything for, really. Haven't really pushed. Because I'm the customer. I know the customer inside and out, because I'm the customer. You're the customer. You two guys are veterans. But now I've got to branch it out to make sure other customers can go for it. The bonus about it giving back to different charities is you don't have to be a serving member or a veteran to enjoy decent quality rum. Like I say, it's not going directly to that specific unit. It just pays homage to it. However, here's the interesting thing. So your favourite flavour might not be the Medic blend that you just drank, Matt. Your favourite flavour might be Paul's Sapper blend. However, it's weird. It's weird how the fact that the labelling just changed your taste buds totally. And you're like, oh, that tastes like rat piss. And you're like, oh, the Medic blend's by far my favourite flavour. Isn't that weird?
Sapper blend tastes like fucking OMD 90 and deck cord, mate.
What are you being like that for? What are you being like that for?
Like, genuinely, right, Steve, honestly, I think it's fucking brilliant, mate. I drink, Paul drinks single malt, I drink single malt. I'm not a big drinker, mate. I like smaller brand beers. You know what I mean? I'm not a big drinker, mainly because I've got, 2 small kids, 5 kids in total. So having a hangover at this age in my life, mate, is literally, like, probably worse than AIDS. But that genuinely is so, so nice. And when I look at the bottle, it's number 128 because it's still individually numbered, which I love. But also, it says 40%, mate, right?
Yes.
That doesn't taste like it should be 40%. That tastes like something that you'd have at Christmas, around 15-20%, that you could literally chug it, mate.
Yeah. Well, once again, that was the main thing. So when I spoke to him, so this is what makes it expensive, you see, because there's loads of flavoured rums out there, but like you say, they're more like liqueurs. They're like 20%, 25%. You can set that on fire. We do in that bar. You can set that rum on fire because it's 40%. That's how you can tell the alcohol content's on there. The hardest aspect of it is making it taste that sweet, that smooth, but you still want that kick. I didn't want some, you can't gob off that you're some kind of, that it's Black Ops and it's alley and it's a 20% liqueur. It had to be a full-bodied rum. And the name Black Ops, because people go, oh, Black Ops, that's pretty alley. That must be pretty. Is that because of all like what you've done in SFSG and all the stuff like that? No, like people mistake the Black Ops. A Black Op for us was basically telling my poor wife, the exercise going on an extra day while we go on the lash somewhere else, or it's the same on the back end of a CP job, mate, and you go, oh no, he didn't give me £1,000 tip this time, so we haven't spunked it up the wall on the piss somewhere. That was the whole point.
I've been dicked to go to San Diego again.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
it's
that's it.
I'm gonna do it this time, but it is what a nightmare, mate. That's one of the best things. I love it, Steve. That's one of the best things about the military. You know, when you go on on an exercise, on an op, even on the tours like Herrick, Tellick, the tours that you'd have done outside of the standard, it's like doing decompression in Cyprus and stuff. You're like, this is like a little treat. I can sit here, no stress, and have a few beers, and I love that, mate.
Like I said, they're the things you say, but you only miss two things, in all honesty, when you get out. Well, for me, you only miss two things when I got out the army. I missed the blokes, obviously, which is the main thing you miss, and getting paid at the end of the month, guaranteed pay at the end of the month. That is it. Everything else is just kind of built me up to, it's all stuff that you can hopefully use, you can transfer into the civilian world. And as for that, like that brotherhood that I got once getting out, I became more para-reg being outside of the reg than what I was when I was inside it. Inside it, it was the grey man, you know what I mean? But getting out, yeah, I'm cutting around the reg t-shirts and everything. Now, the reality is I used to run between 8 and 12 miles a day. Now, I struggle running a bath, let alone...
I'll tell you something I like, mate. So I was fortunate. I say fortunate. I was a company medic for 2 para deploying to Iraq. Yeah. So I deployed. I was on an exercise with them first. We did Kenya. We did what was it called, Grand Prix, with 2 para, and then deployed to Iraq. They were like, "We'll take this fucking hat medic." But what I liked was, it was one of the best tours I did in Alamara with 2 para because of the people, and we were just a company group in Alamara, and it was like everyone who wasn't reg was a hat. Regardless, right? But if you could do your job, mate, and you were capable at your job, you were accepted, mate.
Yeah, that's it, mate.
You were bloke and you delivered. They just set a higher standard, and the fact, honestly, they were. And when I say they set a higher standard, there was guys who fucked up on that tour, who then got shelled on that tour. They were, we're in Basra, mate. We're in Alamara. And if they fucked up, it was like, yeah, you're not meeting the standard expected. We're not going to make a big deal of it and go through paperwork, and we're just going to thrash you so that you don't do that again, because it's important. And I think there is definitely a misconception about the high standards that the reg set amongst themselves. And I've experienced it, again, on exercise, in camp, and also on ops. And I think there is, like, the reg was a brilliant place to work if you were good at your job. And I think regardless whether you're para-trained or not, you're not reg, you're a hat.
No, well, that was the thing, mate. Because most para-reg guys have all gone through the sausage factory of depot. We've all gone through the mental and physical torture of it. Because most people think it's all about P company. It's not, mate. It's the corridor beasting sessions. It's the messing around with you mentally to make sure that you're like. The whole point is to weed you out. So we start with like 50, I think, in our original platoon. Finish with 15 of us. Like I say, I would hate the idea of going back and doing it now. In all honesty, it was probably because I was young enough and stupid enough to kind of just go out. You're not gonna break me. Mainly because I'd come from a pretty unstable upbringing, which is what you find with quite a lot of the para-reg guys. In all honesty, like if I was to ask every 10 blokes, the amount of people that come from some form of broken home or were adopted was like relatively high. So I think subconsciously we were actually searching for that other family that we didn't have in our own personal lives to start with, which is mad, ain't it, when you think about it? Yeah. But I think that's where we're slightly different to the Marines, who were kind of, in the nicest way, we always kind of, whenever I seen guys who were going to the Marines, they came from pretty standard, really nice, good to get. They were the rugby lads. Anyone up for a game of ruggies? Para-reg were the football kids. They were the raggy dolls, mate. They were the kids from the estates that were just fucking needed to go there, otherwise they were going to end up killing someone. And the best thing about it is they were all blokes that thought they were pretty hard in their little towns, and then you get to Para-reg, mate, and you go, oh my god, I am a shithouse. I am nothing compared to some of these fucking grizzly ass monsters. And you look up to them, like, it's insane.
There was a guy, mate. And it was a long time ago, mate. It must have been around, let me work this out, must have been around 2002, 2003. He was a Lance Jack in Para-reg. But he'd spent 5 or 6 years in the French Foreign Legion, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
This guy, mate, was a fucking absolute hard as fuck, horrible man. And people just gave him his like space.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. But he was, but Alex says,
But he was capable.
brilliant. But people just knew, mate. People just knew,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, mate, like I say, the characters I met in that place, mate, was just unreal. And it was actually really humbling me, because you go in there thinking, oh, I've had a bit of a rough upbringing, and you're sitting next to the other bloke next to you who's looks like the happiest bloke in the world, and he tells you his backstory, and you're like, Jesus Christ. Like I say, I thought I had a bit of a bad upbringing, and you're like, Jesus Christ, mate, how are you still here? You know what I mean? And he's the happiest bloke in the world, not just the happiest bloke in the world. Can fucking do his mile and a half in like 7 minutes. It's ridiculous, mate. It was ridiculous. And like I say, that brotherhood, mate, is something that I genuinely. Paratrooper, lucky we've got it. When you get out, it's still there. But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's not there in other units. I know the Marines have it, and I'm hoping that you guys in your own perspective kind of units have it, but it's a little bit different. And that's what I'm hoping that this kind of veteran community can do. That's why I made Ops. So the company is actually called Ops, which is Operators Philosophy Syndicate, which is the idea of improvise, adapt, and overcome, which is going to be a separate thing. But it's cool being part of something. Para-Reg made me part of something. The whole thing about this, when you're saying about what competing with other brands and everything else, it's a little bit like an inside secret. You can only buy it on our website. You can't buy it anywhere else. There's very few places that are going to stop us, and I never will, because you've got to be in the know to get it.
Steve, I'm gonna say this, mate. Right? I think so. Paul and I were both in the corps, mate. You know, I was medical corps. Paul was Royal Engineers, and we had, as I say, we had careers. I miss, like you said, I miss the people, and I miss the purpose, mate. They're the two things I miss, and we spoke about this a lot. I think there's something that infantry, like and Marines and stuff, have that the corps will never have, and that is that brotherhood. Because in the corps, I spent 23 years in the Med Corps, mate. That was 7 different units, mate, different locations, different fucking roles. And it's bouncing everywhere, right? And I've still got my closest friends, and they will be my closest friends till the day I die. And if they were to pick up the phone right now, I'd drop everything to do anything I need for them people. They're lads I've deployed with, and they are varied, but they were never in the same place at the same time, mate. If I could pull them together, and they were my team, my blokes, who I could spend my whole career with, fuck me, that would be magical. And you guys, Reg, Marines, infantry, even RAF Reg, they all stick together and do these things, and they have a certain brotherhood. And there's bits of me that are jealous of it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm jealous of it because there is a brotherhood, the Reg, mate, and no one will ever penetrate it. Same with the Marines. Yeah. It's fascinating, mate.
No, like I say, but that's the thing, mate. I think the veteran community, we're trying to be a bit more like America. Like, thank you for your service, but we're not getting that, and we're never going to be that. Like our nature means we're pretty self-deprecating most of the time, and in all honesty, the public couldn't give a rat's ass.
No,
like. The best, what you said about advice, okay, so another great bit of advice. The best thing about Black Ops is like some of the stuff I've managed to do with it. So we done like a Black Ops event. And one of the best things about that was getting to see some of my customers who I'd never seen before, guys that had supported me from the beginning. And I'm not going to lie, mate, it's one of the best feelings ever when I've seen some random bloke who I've never met before in my life walking around with like a Black Ops hoodie on. I'm like, Jesus Christ, that came out of my head, mate, onto my tablet that I drew. Got printed onto a hoodie. That bloke doesn't know me from Adam, not my friend, didn't know anything about me, because, like I say, at first I didn't want the brand to be about me at all. I wanted it to stand on its own legs. And you see this bloke coming, and he's bought a ticket to this event, and I'm like, how do you say thank you to someone like that? It's when these guys, especially because it's a website, mate, it's not a physical location. These people are buying blind. It's totally blind. It could taste like absolute rat piss. They're giving it a gamble. They're gambling on you to give them a decent product. So when they come and and they love it, mate, it's a mega feeling. That's one of the things that you couldn't have got in the service. You can get out of it, and it so happens, like, I'll give this guy a shout out. Anyway, his name's Tony Womack. He's bought pretty much everything I've ever made, and he's a mega bloke. Him and his missus are both Navy. And he's just genuinely a mega bloke. But it's not just him. There's other guys out there. Noble Gear Reviews, little shout out to them. They're similar. buy everything.
Steve, mate, you talked earlier on about Lockie, Jacob Lockwood, right?
Yeah.
He said something, right? Now, we're just a podcast, Paul and I. And I tell it, and I've told the story 10 times. The podcast was an idea, and we had a logo, and we had banter about it for me and Paul way before we recorded a fucking episode, mate.
Yeah.
We just love the idea of having a podcast. And then, as I say, live events, we created the podcast. We had an episode. We are absolutely indebted. We love the podcast. We love that connection it gives to the veteran community. But most of all, I've got friends. Paul's got friends. We've got friends now, specifically from the podcast, who we never served with, we never worked with. We've had them on the podcast, now they're mates. And Lockie said, a customer will become a friend long before a friend becomes a customer. And I love what you've just said about someone who has supported you throughout. Now they're a mate. And if you'd have never created a brand, you'd never released a bottle, and that person never bought it and never connected with you.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So what? Because that weird brotherhood para-reg thing is what I'm trying to create in a brand, mate, which is kind of it's kind of a weird thing, but it makes sense because it's without trying to be too virtue signaling and over the top of it. We stand for X, Y, and Z. It's like we just make really nice, fucking cool shit. We make it how it's I make the nicest rum in the world, and I'm sure there's probably a couple of other veteran brands that make some rum. I'll fucking beat you. Mine's better, right?
I love it, mate.
And more importantly, we want we're gonna get the support from it, because at the end of the day, the customer gets to decide. You know what I mean?
One of the things I think is impressive, mate. One of the things I think is impressive, Steve, is that you've got a bar, and you've got a bar in Liverpool, and I imagine this is stocked in the bar in Liverpool.
It is, but once again, mate, it's part of that weird contradiction. It's a cocktail bar. So people are like, oh, don't get me wrong, I do rum flights in there where you can get it, and we use it in some of the rums are used in cocktails, but in all honesty, they're good enough to be served solo. Like, someone asked me, what's your favourite mixer? One ice cube. That's all you need. It's good enough to drink smooth, mate. That's what makes it unique. However, it does go really great in cocktails. Last year for like Liverpool Cocktail Week, we had a cocktail called the Social Hand Grenade, which won Cocktail of the Year for Liverpool, and it's basically Pegasus blend, the toffee apple flavoured rum, bit of lemonade and some popping candy served in a grenade, with a bit of dry ice for effect, and that won Cocktail of the Year last year. So for all the rum is mega on it, the straight, it can go in cocktails, but it's not something we advocate. Eventually, what I would like to do with Black Ops is give it its own designated place. But the things I've learned from having a physical location, which is the way things are going to go eventually, mate, because you might notice my social media is not the best. I'm not great at it, because in all honesty, how many fucking photos can I get of a bottle of a rum and stick on there? And how many captions do I want to do from fucking ChatGPT where it's about unity and strength? I'm like, mate, the rum's just fucking great. Drink it. I need to do more of these, because obviously the reality is it's a lot easier for me to tell you. If you haven't tried it, what the fuck's wrong with you? Just order it. Just order it. Drink it. You'll love it. Get ready for the next thing, because the next thing is going to be just as cool. That's pretty much it.
You said something earlier on, mate, and I really like it. It reminds me, Paul, of the Challenge Coins episode we did with Tom a long time ago. And you said you only need one customer. You need one customer, a good customer, who then comes back and also shares it. And then that likes it. Tom Newey from Challenge Coins said on a podcast, mate, he's sold something like, at the time, something like 250,000 coins. And he's never had to issue a refund, mate.
Yeah, there you go, mate.
He is like, I have to get this right for my customer. And then if I get it right for the customer, they're gonna order again, or they're gonna pass it on. And then the person who gets that coin are gonna go, the standard of that is something else. I want a piece of that. And I love that, mate. And I'm same with you saying that, I just want people just fucking drink it. Just drink the rum, and the rest, I'm happy for my brand to do itself. You get a lot of people who go, I'm not talking veteran brands at all, because I love the veteran brand community. You get people who go turbo on marketing, and you're like, I want that. And then when you get it, you're like, this is 100% shitter than I imagined it to be. Whereas yours is like, try it. I don't want to market it. Taste it and come back. And I love that, mate. Steve. Honestly, I think it's.
Well, I was the same, but I went down to HR4K to do like a business event once again, just to kind of a little bit of networking and just to see some of the other brands. Because in all honesty, I used to listen. A little shout out to like some of the originals, like the Cynic's Guild and I think it was Contact Coffee and HR4K, mate. And I loved the fact that they done their little free podcast, mate. And I was like, oh, that was mega, because it was what I was already thinking about. These guys have kind of walked the path, so a little bit of a shout out to them, because they were the ones that, I wouldn't say they pushed me on to. I was going to do it anyway, but it was nice going down and like face to face meeting them. And at first, though, it was a little bit icy, in all honesty. I mean, we sent them a couple of bits. We didn't even get a thank you to start with, and we were like, well, maybe it's just one. They're obviously busy, but it weren't one of them ones. We didn't send it for a shout out. It was a send. We sent it just to say thanks for the podcast, because they were knocking it out for free. And it was great once again to hear veterans stepping out of the comfort zone for us going into private security, trying something totally different in an era where, I haven't got a war pension to rely on. I'm not lucky enough that I got out and I can go and work in the city for a couple of years and use my pension. So it was just a gamble. This was like, it was all my own money. It was all my own madness. And then I thought when we were down there, it was like, oh, this is brilliant, but it's a little bit out the way, so people can't. I'm like, oh, there you go, have a rum, try a rum. And half of the people have drove here, they can't have it. So I'm like, they can have a little sip, but they can't really have some. So I need to have a beer. At least then people can have a shandy, or a beer, and then try the rum. So I was like, all right, cool. And I thought, I'm gonna make a beer called Black Ops, and then found out I couldn't, because there's a protein company that owned the trademark to it. So I had to come up with another name for the beer. And Alliness made sense, mate.
It makes a lot of sense, mate. And I tell you, Alliness is something that everyone in the military community can relate to.
Yeah.
Civvies won't get it straight away.
No.
Won't get it straight away. But
to be honest, dude, one of the main reasons I've done it is I just like the idea of someone saying, I'll have a pint of Alliness. That just, it was the same. That was the whole reason behind it.
Sorry to cut you off, mate. We are time is tight, buddy, but I need to get this out. What is next, mate? What is next for Black Ops? What is next for you?
Oh, see, this is a bit of a difficult one, because in all honesty, I need to grow it. I need to become more social. I'm going to try and be a little bit more open about some of the stuff, some of our merch, some of our products. We've got, like I say, the physical location in Liverpool is a separate thing. I think eventually things are starting to slowly come offline anyway. People want the experience, and it would be nice once again to get that interaction, make the people, the personal touch. Like we're doing this over a phone. Eventually we will meet up at some point. Like I say, Liverpool, hopefully, mate, when you come up for your event in your other work life. So I think eventually it'll be a Black Ops location, but it won't be just like a Black Ops bar. I've already got a bar. I don't want to do that kind of thing. It'll probably be more like somewhere where you come for a tasting experience and get some other merch. And like I say, in an ideal world, it wouldn't just be ours. You'd have a little bit of a corner where you could set up your own little Forces brand stand if you wanted to, with all the different ones. Because once again, it's a buddy system of help a brother out. When you get where you go and turn around, help the next one in line. That's the kind of idea behind it. That's what you want. That's what you want to be doing. That's why I reached out to some of the other guys. Because at first, when you're first doing it, it's quite a lonely ass place, and it's nice knowing there's stuff like this. That's why I've come on this, mate. One of the main reasons I wanted to come on this, because there probably is someone sat there thinking about doing something. Just don't make another fucking coffee brand, whatever you do. Fucking do enough of them. Fuck me. I don't even like coffee, mate. Steve, you can do whatever you want, just no more fucking coffee brands.
Steve, it's been an absolute honour and a pleasure having you on. And the fact that, again, and I mean, we had a bit of a bounce about it earlier, but the fact that you've come on our little podcast first, honestly, we are humbled by it, because you're an incredible brand. Your product is something else, mate. And the fact that you've come on the CAPB podcast is ace for us, mate. And it's part of the reason why We built it. We're not a huge platform. We're not Joe Rogan yet. But the fact that you've come on, mate, and we can celebrate your story, which is fucking brilliant, is humbling, mate. So thank you.
And just a little disclaimer: Parachute guys, you can make as many coffee brands as you want. There's some great ones out there. Beat the Demon, R2B2, mega coffee companies. Like I say, I'm specifically aiming the submarines because they seem to be the ones that mainly make the coffee companies.
Mate, listen, Steve, look after yourself, mate, and cannot wait to share this with the community. All the best.
Keep doing what you're doing, guys. It's mega.
Cheers.
Thank you, mate. Take care.